Do you still remember the first time you asked the question, what is the best beginner tarantula? And most people probably told you, get a Brachypelma. But are they really the best beginner tarantulas? Brachypelmas are commonly regarded as the best tarantula genus to start this spider keeping journey, to start this beautiful hobby. But I am not 100% sure about that. Don't get me wrong. Brachypelmas are absolutely amazing spiders to observe. But I have the feeling that Brachypelmas are not for everyone. Everything depends on the new owner. I really hope that you will join the conversation down below, if you agree or not. But let's start with a quick summary about the Brachypelma genus. Brachypelma is a tarantula genus that comes from Mexico. The word Brachypelma derives from two Greek words. First, brachys, which means short, and pelma, which means sole of foot, and this refers to the tarsal scapula or the claw tuft at the end of the foot. Brachypelmas are very commonly kept as pets, and they share a few characteristics. They are considered docile, they are pretty big, and they are stunningly beautiful and colorful. A prime example for Brachypelma tarantulas is probably this species here, the Brachypelma hamorii, or the Mexican red knee tarantula or Mexican orange knee tarantula. And this is probably the first spider that comes into mind for most people when they hear the term tarantula. This is also the species that you can see in the opening sequence of Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's one of my favorite movies and I love that scene. But this is only one example of many, since the Brachypelma genus consists of 8 taxons according to the World Spider Catalog. The Brachypelma albiceps, auratum, boehmei, baumgarteni, emilia, hamorii, klaasi, and smithi. In 2020, the Brachypelma genus was split into 2 genera. First, we have the red-footed Brachypelmas, and secondly, we have the red-rumped Tliltocatl, among which we can find such amazing species like the Tliltocatl albopilosus, the so-called curly-haired tarantula. Back in the day when I started with the hobby, the curly-haired tarantula was the go-to beginner tarantula if you wanted to start with the hobby, although they were called Brachypelma albopilosum back then. Both genera are protected by CITES or the Washington Convention, since they are very often caught in the wild, despite being commonly bred in the hobby and readily available at pet expos or directly from breeders. So, what makes this tarantula genus good for beginners? First and foremost, they are considered pretty docile. They are not prone to attack something they are not sure they can eat, and their primary defensive mechanism isn't their venom, which is considerably weaker than their old world counterparts. Their primary defensive mechanism is their urticating hairs, which they are flicking towards a possible threat. The urticating hairs burn like nettles if they get in contact with your skin, but besides that, there is probably nothing to be worried about. Although if they get into your eye, then this could lead to some really problematic medical issues. And of course, you could be allergic to the urticating hairs, so be careful. In case you get bitten, there's still probably nothing to be worried about. People who got bitten by Brachypelmas report that the strength of the venom is comparable to a bee or wasp sting, although the fangs of the tarantula are a lot bigger than the stinger of a wasp or a bee, so I'm pretty sure that the bite is a lot more painful. And it's probably worth checking if you are not having an allergic reaction to the venom. This could end pretty nasty, so keep an eye on that. What also makes them good beginner tarantulas is the fact that they are pretty big and colorful. They are quite an eye-catcher if you see them outside of their lair in their enclosure. And they are very long-lived. Males live between 5 to 7 years, and females, as far as I've read, can live up to 30 years, so yeah, quite some time. This comes with a pretty big downside. They take a lot of time to reach adulthood, to reach adult sizes. They are really slow growers. If you consider taking a Brachypelma as your first tarantula, it would be my advice to get them at a juvenile stage. Of course, they can be raised from slings. It's not even that hard. They are really hardy tarantulas, but the amount of time it takes and the small amounts of food they eat, this makes observing them from sling to adulthood, at least if this is your first tarantula, pretty uneventful. And talking about observing the spider, this genus, among a few others, is the reason we have the term pet rock in the hobby. They are most of the time sitting in one place, do nothing and conserve energy. This can make the experience of keeping tarantulas pretty boring, which leads me to the controversial conclusion that Brachypelmas might not be the best beginner tarantula genus. The docile behavior of the tarantula could potentially lead to the false belief that the spider won't defend itself if it feels threatened. I am a strong believer of the opinion that it is better to be constantly reminded that we are working with a wild animal that cannot be tamed, and there is always a risk if you are handling the spider. Also, since this is a pet that we want to observe, it would be really nice if the tarantula would do something exciting inside the enclosure. They are not really reacting like a regular tarantula, at least most of the tarantulas. They are pretty lazy. Sometimes I even wonder if the tarantula moves at all. Like with an aquarium, it is nice if stuff is happening inside the enclosure. For example, that the tarantula webs everything up, like here with the Lasiodora parachebana, or that the tarantula hides if it feels vibrations or movements outside of the enclosure. So, does a perfect beginner tarantula exist? Probably not. Brachypelmas are only one of many amazing tarantula genera to choose from. Aphonopelma, Chromatopelma, Avicularia, Caribena, and the Acanthoscuria, all those can make perfect beginner tarantulas. I will make more detailed videos about those genera in the future, but in the meantime, I hope that you will make a very well-researched decision that will suit your need as a new tarantula keeper. So now, dear tarantula keepers, do you agree with this opinion? Do you think that the Brachypelma is the best beginner tarantula genus, or are you leaning towards other genera? Leave your opinion down below. If you like what you saw and want to learn more about tarantulas, consider subscribing, ring the bell, leave a comment what you like, what you want to see in future videos, and as always, thank you for watching. Tarantula out. You are a lazy tarantula, aren't you?